Hi everybody, Nigel here, back home in front of all of our books and movies. Those of you who read our newsletter closely may be thinking, I thought you said you were going to introduce the commitments in tribute to Alan Parker. That was indeed plan A, but I got some texts from Wayne on Saturday night that said, and I quote, "Oh dear, I'm not enjoying the commitments half as much as I remember. Not shite, just not my cup of tea." Anyway, after I suggested, couldn't he just still do the intro? Being the very principled person that you all know him to be, he replied, I don't see the point of recommending a film with the caveat that I don't actually recommend it. Which I guess is fair enough. So we went back to the drawing board. Neither of us had actually seen Birdy, but it sounded like the most promising choice from Alan Parker's filmography. I looked it up in my trusty Pauline Kael, whose review starts, part satire, part Christ myth. It's like The Little Prince rewritten by Kurt Vonnegut, which, unlike Wayne's assessment of the commitments, definitely does sound like our cup of tea. So I watched it on Sunday morning and immediately thought that it felt like a classic film club pick, the sort of overlooked film with some recognisable actors and a kind of a certain weird vibe that have often played very well upstairs at Lord Palmerston. So here we are. Birdy was released in 1984 and came after Alan Parker had enjoyed success with the likes of Bugsy Malone, Fame, and Midnight Express. It's adapted from a 1978 novel by William Wharton, and in a pre-production letter to his crew, Alan Parker wrote, "Our film, I hope, will be about friendship, obsession, and the nearer verges of insanity. It's also about the way in which all of us, trapped within the walls and predicaments that skirt our lives, endeavour to soar above them." William Wharton wrote a remarkable original book, and we now have, I believe, a very special script. The film tells a story about two childhood friends played by young Matthew Modine and Nicolas Cage, who return home after the Vietnam War. One is particularly troubled, partially, or perhaps entirely, because since his youth, he's been obsessed with becoming a bird. We see many of these avian flights of fancy in flashback in the film. And if I were to ask you which actor plays Birdy, the character who makes himself a full-body pigeon costume from real feathers, attempts to fly, and winds up perched in a psychiatric hospital, you'd probably assume that that'd be Nick Cage. But one of the delights of the film is Cage is uncharacteristically restrained here as Al, Birdy's best friend. Though, in more typical fashion, for the post-war scenes where you see his face in bandages, Cage lost 15 pounds and had 2 of his front teeth pulled out. They were apparently just baby teeth that had never come out, but still. Cage said, "I wanted to look like I was hit by a bomb. It gave me a feeling of something I had lost. I felt this was a once-in-a-lifetime part, and it deserved that much." Modine auditioned for the role of Al, but Parker decided to cast him as Birdy. He said Modine had an introverted, honest quality that suited the character. And in addition to the sight of seeing Modine and Cage dressed as pigeons, there are a couple of other great scenes that I really enjoyed. One takes place at an enormous rubbish dump, and then towards the end of the film, there's an incredible sequence where Birdy imagines that he's taking flight. And this was partly filmed using a brand new invention, the Skycam, which was a computer-controlled camera system created by Garrett Brown, who was the inventor of the Steadicam. Another debut for the film is that it's the first film that Peter Gabriel scored, and if you're familiar with his other instrumental work, like the score for The Last Temptation of Christ, you'll recognise his percussive style. Alan Parker grew up on a council estate actually not far from us in Islington, and said that the book's depiction of working-class Philadelphia reminded him of home. He wrote, "Originally, I'd thought of filming in the rundown areas of Oakland, but one visit to the Philadelphia of the book convinced me that, unique that it is, it would be more truthful to Wharton's story." The row upon row of derelict houses, acre upon acre of urban decay sprawled across this once beautiful city were a perverse seduction to us, a background of hopelessness that anyone would yearn to soar above. Alan Parker had an incredible personal website with clips and essays that he's written about the making of all of his films, including that quote that I just mentioned above. So I'll leave you with one final bit of trivia that I gained from it. So here is Parker again. Gary Giro, our animal trainer, had been working with the bird since January, and he had 80 different canaries at various stages of training. Good lookers, good flyers, bell ringers, and good hoverers. The canaries, always skittish and neurotic, were frustratingly difficult to film at normal speeds. The main canary in the script, Perta, would eventually be played by a canary unromantically called Bird Number 9, but many of her stunts were done by a less attractive but more accomplished bird called Queepers. As well as the canaries, Gary was also training pigeons, a tropical hornbill, a cat, 18 dogs, and a seagull, all of which had their moments on screen. So I've linked to his whole essay about the making of Birdy on our website. As you might have seen in our newsletter this week, from now on we are going to do things slightly differently while we still can't do public screenings. So we're starting a kind of a new version, Film Club at Home version of The Chain. So in 2 weeks, Wayne will introduce a film that you can stream at home that's somehow linked to Birdy. Until then, I hope you enjoy this, our tribute to Alan Parker. Video well.